class is about lenses. In photography, we know that when we use a camera, the most important element of camera is lens. The light which goes through the lenses, and when it reaches to the mirror reflects light and we see the external world through eyepiece. But the lens that we are using is very important for photography. And when we discuss about lenses, one very important element is focal length. So what is focal length? Focal length is basically distance from the optical center of the lens. And please be careful when I say optical center of the lens. यहीं पर स्टूडेंट्स थोड़ा सा घबरा जाते हैं और कई बार वो ऑब्जेक्ट और लेंस के बीच के डिस्टेंस को बताने लगते हैं. ऐसा नहीं है. ऑब्जेक्ट तो इन्फिनिट कहीं भी आपका अनंत पे हो सकता है, कहीं भी हो सकता है, बट दैट इज नॉट द रियल डेफिनेशन ऑफ फोकल लेंथ. फोकल लेंथ इज calculated in millimeter. So when it is calculated in millimeter, it cannot be the distance of the object. So the distance from the optical center. So when you see a lens, you'll find that there is a in the middle of the lens also. So there optical center of the lens to the focal plane. Now where is the focal plane? That is inside the camera, where your image is formed. So when the lens is focused at infinity, it is generally measured in millimeter. So you will see that the incoming light going through the lenses and forming an image. In this image formation process, lens plays very important role. There is another very important term that we generally come across, but we hardly give enough time to understand it. Zoom lenses. Now zoom is basically a lens kind of where we are using lens with varying focal length, where you can vary focal length. So you can zoom in, zoom out. So when you are zooming in or zooming out, you are simply changing the distance, and that distance which you are changing is basically happening inside the camera. कई बार हम लोग ये समझते हैं ये जूम कैसे हो रहा है. जूम इसलिए हो रहा है क्योंकि आप लेंस को जब आप अपनी रिंग को घुमाते हैं तो पोजीशन इधर पीछे जाती है या आगे जाती है, और वहीं से हम जूम इन करते हैं. मतलब हम ऑब्जेक्ट के और क्लोज चले जाते हैं या फिर जूम आउट करते हैं, ऑब्जेक्ट से दूर हो जाते हैं. The third and another important point is angle of view. When we decide about a lens, and how we shall decide about a lens, which lens is important for me. Suppose I am a wildlife photographer, so what kind of lenses are basically required for me? If I am a war photographer, so what kind of lenses I need when I am in the war zone? Or if I am a fashion photographer, if I am say doing product photography, or I want to play with light and use it in a creative manner, so is there any scope for using lenses also? So the lenses basically give us two major views. One is narrow angle, another one is wide angle. So narrow angle view and wide angle view. But this narrow angle and wide angle basically has many variations, which we call it. If we use a 5 mm lens, that 5 mm lens will give us 90 degree viewing angle. And if we increase the uh, lens to 10 mm lens, we'll get 45-degree viewing angle. So 5 mm lens 90 degree, almost 90 degree. It is not exact that when you use 5 mm lens it will be 90 degree. We know that when we use a fisheye lens, it gives us a distorted perspective, and that perspective could be 180 degree. And you can visualize it also yourself. Try to see, try to stand and uh, try to see things that are just, parallel as well as on both sides of your eyes. You'll realize that you are able to see things, but the things are not very clear. So the eyes are giving distorted perspective, and this particular, the action of eye is again responsible for the invention of fisheye lens. When we have fisheye lens, it simply means that it is related with the eyes movement, and that movement gives us a distorted perspective of the external reality. When we use 20 mm lens, it gives us 20 degree view. If we use 60 mm lens, it will give us 10 degree view. 100 mm lens, 5 degree view. 150 mm lens, near about 3 degree view. When and how you should use these lenses. Suppose you are a wildlife photographer and you want to click a few good photographs of the wild animals. We know that wild animals are dangerous and they can attack at any point in time. You cannot have faith. So what is the distance which is safe for a wildlife photographer? Suppose you encounter a lion and you are clicking photographs and your distance is not a safe distance, then anything can happen. That's why we use either a vehicle where we can have glass views where there is a glass, there is hole also on the base, with the help of which you can point your camera and you can get uninterrupted view. But most of the times when we take photographs, we use telephoto lens. And when we say telephoto lens simply are of, you say 150 mm, 200 mm, 400 mm, even more than that. So that will give you the clear view of things that are at distance. दूर पर जो चीज़ें हैं उनका आपको क्लियर व्यू मिलेगा, लेकिन वो जो व्यू मिलेगा आपको वो बहुत ही नैरो होगा, नैरो एंगल जिसे हम कहते हैं क्लोजअप. तो अगर आप फोटोग्राफी में चाहते हैं कि नज़दीक से शॉट लें तो आपको टेलीफोटो लेंस का इस्तेमाल करें. एंड इफ़ यू आर अ फोटोग्राफर हु इज़ कैप्चरिंग नेचर, then you definitely love to see that the whole entire the reality is captured in your photograph. That's why we need more wide angle shots. And in photography, generally in nature, when we capture nature, we generally use wide angle lenses. I'm not saying that we cannot use vertical shots. There are many beautiful vertical shots also of nature which gives us feeling of real things, but in most of the cases when you see the photographers generally capturing nature use horizontal framing and use wide angle lenses, and you can go wide as much as you basically feel you are comfortable, or your creation is captured in whatever lens you feel like you are using it. So as a photographer, you have to decide that which lens is important and which lens is not. Then there is another very important issue is that sometimes we say that a lens is a fast lens. Fast lens doesn't mean that the lens runs fast. Basically, it allows more light to enter inside the camera. And everything is about light, when you are working in a low light condition, you need a camera which can allow more light to enter inside and give you more scope of manipulating things. So a fast lens is basically a lens which gives you more light, and in comparison to lenses which are of maybe same focal length, so you are getting more light inside the camera and you can manipulate. So angle of view and the use of lenses we have discussed. Now we can keep these things in categories. Like in wide, suppose we say what is wide. So wide is maybe from 5 mm to 35 mm. Okay, and normal is 45 to 55. Why we call it normal? Because normal, everything is related with human eyes, and human eyes cannot give different variety of shots. Our position is fixed, but camera's position is not fixed. Camera can give us, when we use different lenses, we can get different shots, and in a single shot we can have multiple activities. Like we can start our camera with a static shot, and then we can zoom in, zoom out, even we can pan left, pan right. So there are many things involved in static camera, as well as when camera is moving along with its space. The most important thing is that you must know the use of the lenses. So lenses are generally wide angle lenses and telephoto lenses. The mm is very important. Sometimes we call it focal length. How shall we determine the focal length? Sometimes you get information that 40x, 50x, the focal length, but those things are basically forced. We call it the real focal length is the optical zoom, not digital zoom. Optical zoom is decided on the basis of the capacity of the lens to magnify a particular object. Suppose it magnifies object 10 times the object, then it is 10x, or 20 times, 30 times. But there is a very important element in this also. When we say 10x, so if the x value is 10, so it simply means 10 into 10, 100. But if the x value is 20, then 20 into 10, 200. So a lens which is basically 20 to which has capacity to basically go for 20 to 200 mm. This is also a 10x optical zoom, and 10 to 100, that is also a 10x zoom. So the value of x is very important while calculating the optical zoom of the camera. As a photographer, you'll basically use these telephoto lenses or wide angle lenses for creating beauty in the frame. But lens is not the only thing that is important in photography. As we all know that there are many other elements also. The shutter speed, the light that is coming inside, and the composition, framing, everything is important. With the slow shutter, you can increase the amount of light, even the distance from the camera also can give you different composition. See the 28 mm lens or 50 mm lens or 70 mm lens or 210 mm lens of same object will give you different perspective. So as a photographer, you have to decide that what lenses are basically required for you, and that will help you in creating beauty. So I hope that you understand the importance of lens and what kind of lenses are required for the photographers when going for a particular photography, either for war photography or for social photography or for advertisements or product photography. Decide carefully, because lenses are very important part of photography. Thank you very much.